Welcome back to Big Mouth and welcome to Tuesday's edition of the dceu Daily. There's a massive misconception in terms of Patty Jenkins' role on Wonder Woman 2017. Me, you and everybody else decided to assume that the credit for that film must be Patty's. That Wonder Woman 2017 is actually the vision of Patty Jenkins. This is the biggest misconception in movie history. So let me explain to you what Patty's role was on Wonder Woman 2017. Think about a director for your favourite TV show. So it comes up, directed by blah, 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 right? Let's say Smallville, an episode directed by Greg Beeman. So Greg Beeman didn't write the episode of Smallville that you love, but he directed it. So he's read the script multiple times. He studied the script so he can get the actors to perform it in the best way possible. So he inspires the performances from them. But the episode of Smallville isn't Greg Beeman's vision. It's the vision of the showrunners and the writers of that episode. This is exactly what Patty Jenkins' role was on Wonder Woman 2017. But we decided to give her credit for the vision of that movie. In fact, she decided to take credit for the vision of that movie. Why wouldn't you? It's one of the best comic book movies ever made. So you would do that, wouldn't you? But that is so far from the truth. Alan Heinberg wrote a beautiful screenplay for Wonder Woman 2017. It's his vision. It's Zack Snyder who brought Alan Heinberg on to do the screenplay. Zack Snyder had a great vision for the Wonder Woman universe, and you see it in this first movie. I was re-watching Wonder Woman 2017 yesterday for this video. In fact, I'm binging the dceu, starting with Wonder Woman 2017, 84, Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, and actually Suicide Squad, then Birds of Prey. I think Birds of Prey could probably be better off after Suicide Squad. Anyway, and so the vision of the movie is Alan Heinberg's and Zack Snyder's. In fact, Zack Snyder, as we've discussed many times on this channel, did a lot of things for this. In terms of directors and directing and choreography, he did a hell of a lot for this movie. So really, Wonder Woman 2017 is Zack Snyder's vision and Alan Heinberg's vision. And that's why it's one of the best comic book movies ever made. And Patty Jenkins is like, I suppose, an assistant director on Wonder Woman 2017. Now you're saying, how can you say that, Mick? How can you take the credit away from this wonderful director, this wonderful woman? I haven't seen her movie Monster, so I don't know if she even wrote and directed the movie. We know she directed it. Monster apparently is a really, really good movie, so that's great. But this is the problem. If you want to know what Patty Jenkins as a storyteller is and a director is, watch Wonder Woman 84. You'll know what she's all about. But Wonder Woman 2017 is a great movie. But you can't give all the credit to that great movie to Patty Jenkins. This is the reason she got the sequel. This is the reason she's got Rogue Squadron, Star Wars Rogue Squadron, Cleopatra. She's deemed to be this wonderful storyteller. And it simply isn't true. I like Patty Jenkins. I think she's got a great manner about her. But she isn't what we all think she is. She's not. She's not the person who can take total credit for Wonder Woman 2017, those beautiful moments with Steve Trevor's team, the moments with the guy who's supposed to be a sharpshooter, but he can shoot anything. And there's a great backstory there for that character. You know, the native Indian who makes the point to Diana that his place was taken from him. Who took it? He did. Steve Trevor. His people did. It's a great moment. These are little great nuggets in the film, but the character development of Diana and the Amazonians and the whole film has got so much charm about it. And that charm is oozing from Alan Heinberg's screenplay, not because of Patty Jenkins. And you can tell that just by watching Wonder Woman 84, because in Wonder Woman 84, you see who Patty Jenkins is as a storyteller. And Wonder Woman 84, and I'm not sure if exposes is the correct word, but yes, it exposes what kind of storyteller that she is. That in fact, Zack Snyder knows exactly what he's doing when it comes to comic book movies, or Wonder Woman 2017 wouldn't be the fabulous, fabulous film that it is. As I say, one of the best comic book movies, if not the best, or one of the best out there. It is a fucking sonnet. It is amazing. No one, very few people have ever put together a comic book movie that good, full of emotion. And we're in the era now where we talk about strong female role models. This is what Gal Gadot is. Gal Gadot is the Christopher Reeve of the 21st century. She's playing the superhero we look up to. She's everything that a superhero should be in modern terms. This was what Christopher Reeve was when I was growing up. We look up to her. She's a goddess. She exemplifies this love and this heroic pure-heartedness. She is amazing, and she was great casting. But don't forget, it was Zack Snyder who cast her, not Patty Jenkins. So last night I reported that Wonder Woman 3 is in the works. It's been greenlit by Toby Emmerich and Warner Brothers Pictures. I was very excited about this. I still am. I want her to complete her trilogy. But it's interesting, the wording. All of a sudden, it's a conclusion to a trilogy. So part of me thinks, is that just the end of one chapter and should be back to tell more stories and direct more stories? Or is this it? I'm kind of suspecting that this is it, that Warner Brothers and Warner Media have had it with her. And you know what? I'm not here to rubbish Patty Jenkins. It's not my style, because I think there's a lot of good things in Wonder Woman 84. And just because it's not the film we wanted it to be, it doesn't make it a bad movie, because Wonder Woman 84 isn't a bad movie. It's a movie the way she wanted it to be. But don't ever sit there telling me, but she came up with Wonder Woman 2017, because she didn't. She was barely a director on the film. She was a director on the film. She got the credit. She directed the movie. But so did Zack Snyder. I said this on this channel as well about No Man's Land. You look at it, the choreography, the way it's shot, the slow-mo. It's got Zack Snyder written all over it. And I'm sorry that I'm repeating myself, but we have to get this out here, because there's a lot of negativity and toxicity about Wonder Woman 84. It's up to you if you think it deserves that toxicity and negativity. There's interesting elements to the movie, the pacing, in the second act. But that's who Patty Jenkins is. She is Wonder Woman 84. Now, there's been a lot of kind of derision. Is Maxwell Lord, a.k.a. Maxwell Lord, a.k.a. Pedro Pascal, playing a Donald Trump kind of character? Yes, he is. And for those of you who don't agree with that, I will draw you a picture. Maxwell Lord is a little TV personality who does infomercials, right? So people recognise him from the TV. Barbara Manova does when he quotes his line. So basically already, Patty Jenkins has made Maxwell Lord into a little bit of a TV personality who happens to con his way into power. And all of a sudden he's in the Oval Office. He's not the president, but he's in the Oval Office making speeches. Donald Trump began as a TV personality, conned his way into the White House. It's the same thing. Donald Trump promised people that their wishes would come true from a certain point of view. This is exactly what Maxwell Lord does. So this is exactly Donald Trump. Now, credit to Patty, because instead of just throwing a hate over this idiot Trump, because I feel he is an idiot, she tries to humanise the Maxwell Lord version of Trump, because that's who he's representing, like it or not. So in the end, she says, if only Donald Trump, I suppose, would take a step back and realise what he's doing, then he'd stop. And that's the message of this movie. To stop greed. To think of everyone. Not to be selfish. And it's exemplified in the opening sequence in Themyscira, when Diana is taught as a young child not to cheat. That the only way is truth. It's the Donald Trump moral of the story. If only Donald Trump would be more truthful and a better person. So this is the story she's trying to tell. Now, I think elements of this story have got a good morale to it. And I get it. And I like it. And the third act exemplifies that. And I think it's a really good third act. Personally, I think it's a problematic third act in terms of a cinematic vehicle, because you've got very little action and people want that. But it is so heightened emotionally. It works, and you kind of end up forgiving what's come before. But what I would say to Jeff Johns and Patty Jenkins is, really? After what? Over 50 years of comic book storytelling, this is all you can come up with? A Donald Trump character? Really? That's all you can do? Having a bunch of aerobics women doing aerobics, bending over, and having a bunch of males looking at them bending over? Really? Is that all you can do? All you can do is show Wonder Woman in the male sequence getting a bunch of idiotic men, putting them away, stopping them. Is that all you can do? And the one female villain, of course, is sympathetic because she's a woman. So this is who Patty Jenkins is. This is what modern day Hollywood is. Now, I'm not particularly too triggered by this movie. I'm not angry about this movie. This is the film Patty wanted to make. But if you think about Patty's moral of this story, on Themyscira, when she says truth is all that matters, and you learn nothing from cheating and you learn nothing from lies, one of the biggest cheat is that Patty Jenkins is 100% responsible for Wonder Woman 2017. But as usual, Zack Snyder's a gentleman. He's been promoting Wonder Woman 84 and saying how much he loves it, left, right and centre. He's part of the Warner Media party, of course, now. This is why I feel he's back. But it's not going to be announced, of course, until after they see the Justice League numbers. So Zack Snyder, for me, and Alan Heinberg take credit for this movie and the way it is and the way it's depicted. And Patty Jenkins takes credit for, in a way, giving us a really good Wonder Woman, inspiring a great performance from Gal, who was a very raw actor at the time, with very little experience. So as a director, she did a great job inspiring performances. Directing a film of that size is a really big task. And it was good for her because she had very little experience, apart from Monster and a few episodes of some TV shows. So she needed someone as proficient as Snyder. But let me just say one more time so we can put this to bed. Wonder Woman 2017 is Zack Snyder's and Alan Heinberg's vision. And it's one of the best visions of a comic book movie ever. It will stand the test of time as a classic because this is how good Zack Snyder is. In fact, Wonder Woman 2017 is evidence that Zack Snyder should be running the DC Extended Universe, or a portion of it, or his own stories. At least it's evidence. And if you want to see Patty Jenkins' vision as a storyteller, it's Wonder Woman 1984. Now, if you like that, that's brilliant. Let's get the streamers out, right? Let's have a party, Marty, right? But if you don't, it's all down to her. I discussed yesterday how she was saying that Warner Media wanted to cut either the Themyscira sequence or the Mal sequence. I believe they wanted desperately to cut the Mal sequence. They were concerned about it. And when you see the reaction of the Mal sequence, you can understand why. The sequence of Themyscira, you would have to be a lunatic to cut that out. But always remember who's responsible for Wonder Woman 2017 and who's responsible for Wonder Woman 1984. Still to come on today's DCEU Daily, there's a wonderful interview from the NewYorkTimes.com with DCEU head Walter Hamada and his plans for the future. It's looking like from 2022 we are going to get 4 movies, but there's a big interview with him and I'm very excited about what he's got to say. But first we go to Scott Edwards, who has tagged me with a couple of things, a question and I think something of an Arrowverse Crisis on Infinite Earths comic book. So we're going to look at that as well. But coming up is that very important interview with Walter Hamada. Our Movies TV Mad. For tomorrow's DCEU Daily is the official cover of an upcoming Arrowverse crossover novel. I love seeing all the heroes together. And here it is. It's some great artwork as usual, Scott. Thank you very much. It looks wonderful. Now, Scott's going to ask me about my favourite subject, one of my favourite DC subjects, which is Smallville. So, I just started Smallville, he says, and I like the show already. Can you tell me your thoughts on the strong and weak points throughout the show? Yes, Scott. Smallville, for me, is one of the best interpretations of DC on live action. Not only does Smallville tell the story of Clark Kent as a young man, a rite of passage story, a step-by-step character-driven journey of how he becomes Superman. And it's done in a great way. Not only does Smallville depict Lex Luthor from a young businessman in his 20s to becoming the insane, evil megalomaniac he becomes, they actually make Clark and Lex be friends. And it's such a beautiful thing. And this goes on from season 1 until they're not friends anymore. I would say when it starts kind of going wrong for their friendship from 5, 6, and then 7 is the climax of Lex Luthor's story. By the way, season 7, Scott, spoiler alert, is Michael Rosenbaum, aka Lex Luthor's, and Lionel Luthor's final season. It's the culmination of Alfred Goff's and Miles Miller's Smallville story, but of course Smallville goes on for 10 seasons. Smallville should have gone on for 8 seasons, Scott. Our Miles left after season 7 and they took Lionel Luthor, aka John Glover, Michael Rosenbaum, aka Lex Luthor, Lorna, Kristen Crook, those lot left and they left a big hole in the show. Now, of course, Thomas Clark is amazing. He's the character, he's our Superman and he's brilliant. But the final 3 seasons became more CW type, more Arrowverse, later Arrowverse kind of thing. It was watered down. There are some great moments in the final 3 seasons, but the final 3 seasons for me are not as good as those first 7 seasons. And I've discussed this on this channel so many times as I have a great number of things. But Scott, for me, Smallville is leaps and bounds better than anything in Arrowverse. It's not just about superheroes and crossovers. It's telling a defined story. And that is so beautiful and so fantastic. So for me, Smallville is one of the greatest interpretations of these DC characters in live action, because not only did they achieve all of that, in the final 3 seasons, you'll see them form their own Justice League. There's so many DC crossovers as well. And in season 9, look for the Smallville movie event, Absolute Justice, when Clark and Chloe and the rest of the team are introduced into the Justice League of, is it the Justice League of America? I can't remember what they're called now. The JLA, or something along those lines. Basically, Clark discovers there was a Justice League before he was born, and they were arrested, and they were framed for crimes they didn't commit. And there's you get Hawkman, and you get Dr. Fate, and it's just brilliant. So for me, Scott, it's an amazing show, but I think the problems really began in the final 3 seasons. But those final 3 seasons are probably better than Arrowverse. There's still lots of good stuff going on, but Smallville is my go-to point for a lot of elements of DC live action. It's an amazing piece of work, and it's a piece of work I'll hold close to my heart for the rest of my life. Walter Hamada has been the head of DC Films, the DC Extended Universe, since 2018. And this is a great interview article from the NewYorkTimes.com. You can go and check that out if you want. DC Films, led by Walter Hamada, plans to release movies featuring DC Comics heroes like Wonder Woman, Superman and Batman at a much faster pace. Elizabeth Weinberg for the New York Times. Managing movie superheroes is about to get a lot more complicated. Walter Hamada, who runs DC Films, is overseeing a dizzying number of projects, part of a swarm of comics-based stories coming from Hollywood. Los Angeles, Walter Hamada is not a typical superhero wrangler. He doesn't have a booming fanboy in chief personality. His modest home office, at least as it appears on Zoom, is light on the usual cape and cowl collectibles. Hollywood was not even his first calling. He set out to be a mechanical engineer. As the president of DC Films, however, Mr. Hamada, 52, manages the movie careers of Wonder Woman, Batman, Cyborg, The Flash, Superman and every other DC Comics superhero. And the new course he has charted for them is dizzying. The most expensive DC movies up to four a year starting in... So yeah, let me say that again because this is really important and I wasn't reading that properly. The most expensive DC movies. Up to 4 a year starting in 2022. So there will be up to 4 DC Extended Universe movies from 2022. Very exciting and I can't wait for that. Are designed for release in theatres. Mr. Hamada said, additional superhero films, 2 annually, is the goal. Perhaps focused on riskier characters like Batgirl and Static Shock. Will arrive exclusively on HBO Max. So again, let me confirm. 2 annually is the goal, perhaps focused on riskier characters like Batgirl and Static Shock. Will arrive exclusively on HBO Max. So they are planning 2 superhero-centric movies a year on HBO Max. This is really ambitious and really exciting. The fledgling streaming service owned by Warner Media, maybe that when they're talking about 4 movies a year, they're talking about 2 on theatrical and 2 on HBO Max, which is kind of interesting. It would be cool to have 4 released theatrically and 2 on HBO Max. That would be asking a lot, but maybe that's the target later on. The fledgling streaming service owned by Warner Media. In addition, DC Films, which is part of Warner Bros., will work with filmmakers to develop movie offshoots, TV series that will run on HBO Max and interconnect with their big screen endeavours, which means if you add the spin-offs, you could have at least 4 DC movies or kind of TV shows on streaming on HBO Max a year. With every movie that we're looking at now, we are thinking, what's the potential Max spin-off, Mr. Hamada said. Very ambitious, very exciting. If you thought there was a glut of superheroes before, just wait. To make all the storylines work, DC Films will introduce movie audiences to a comics concept known as the multiverse. Parallel worlds where different versions of the same characters exist simultaneously. Coming up, for instance, Warner Bros. Will have 2 different film sagas involving Batman, played by 2 different actors, running at the same time. Wow! Now this is interesting. Let's hear this again. Coming up, for instance, Warner Bros. Will have 2 different film sagas involving Batman, played by 2 different actors, running at the same time. So this is confirmation we're going to have 2 Batmen in the DC Extended Universe. Now, one is Robert Pattinson's The Batman, right? And that trilogy. So who's the other one? Is it Michael Keaton's films that we've heard rumours about, or is it Batfleck? Very, very interesting. 2 Batmen. 2 actors playing Batman at the same time. There's confirmation of that there. The complicated plan involves a sharp increase in production. Last year, Warner Brothers made 2 live-action superhero movies. They're talking about 2019. Shazam? Was Shazam in 2018? Sorry, yeah, I think he's got his dates wrong. Anyway, superhero movies. Joker and Shazam in 2018 was the only Aquaman. What? Right, properly. Let's say this again. Right. Last year, Warner Bros. Made 2 live-action superhero movies. Joker and Shazam. In 2018, there was only Aquaman. All 3 were smash hits, underscoring the financial opportunity of making more, which is what I always say to you. I don't care about Rotten Tomatoes and, box office records. I just want them to make enough to keep on making these DC movies. For various reasons, including creative misfires and management turnover at DC Films, Mr. Hamada took over in 2018. Warner Brothers has badly trailed Disney-owned Marvel at the box office over the last decade. Warner Brothers has generated $8 billion in worldwide superhero ticket sales, which isn't bad, is it? Including $36 million from Wonder Woman 1984 over the weekend. That is just domestic, by the way. Marvel has taken in $20.6 billion, but don't forget, Marvel's been going a lot longer than the DC Extended Universe. Important to understand that. Gal Gadot and Chris Pine in Wonder Woman 1984, which arrived to $16.7 million in North America ticket sales over the weekend, the best result for any movie since the pandemic started. Suffice to say, Warner Brothers, which invented the big-budget superhero movie in 1978 with Superman, has been under pressure to get its act together. Disney has succeeded in part because its divisions collaborate in a way that siloed Warner Brothers never has. But that is changing. AT&T mandated greater cross-company synergy when it took over Warner Media in 2018. In the past, we were so secretive, Mr. Hamada said. It was shocking to me, for example, how few people at the company were actually allowed to read scripts for the movies we are making. More than ever, studios are learning on pre-established characters and brands, especially if their corporate parents are building streaming services. HBO Max has 12.6 million subscriber activations. Netflix has 195 million. How do you delight Wall Street and quickly close the gap? You start by putting your superheroes to work. This month, Disney announced 100 new movies and shows for the next few years, most of them headed directly to its Disney Plus streaming service, which has 87 million subscribers. Marvel is chipping in 11 films and 11 television shows, including WandaVision, which arrives on January the 15th and finds Elizabeth Olsen reprising her Scarlet Witch role from the Avengers franchise. Warner Brothers has at least as many comic-based movies in various stages of gestating, including a Suicide Squad sequel, The Batman, in which Robert Pattinson Twilight plays the Caped Crusader, and Black Adam starring Dwayne Johnson as the villainous title character. Television spin-offs from Batman and the Suicide Squad are headed to HBO Max. Warner Media's traditional television division has roughly 25 additional live-action and animated superhero shows, including Superman and Lois, which arrives on the CW network in February. So we're going into Sony Pictures here. Is this relevant? Sony Pictures Entertainment has its own superhero slate. At least 2 more. Spider-Man. Let's just see if there's any. Superheroes have long been Hollywood's most reliable moneymakers, especially when sales of related merchandise are included. Wonder Woman tiara for cats on sale for $59.50. But how much speeding spandex and computer-generated visual effects can audiences take? More than you think, said David A. Gross, who runs Franchise Entertainment Research, a film consultancy. If the stories are well written and production values are strong, he said, then there will be little sign of fatigue. Perhaps the biggest challenge facing Warner Brothers involves the recent prioritization of HBO Max. The risk is will watching these movies first on television degrade the entertainment experience, and later the value. Mr. Gross said for an individual movie, there is no more profitable business model than a successful theatrical release. I agree. Pre-pandemic, he's right. Creating the biggest pop culture event possible, it's the locomotive that pulls the entire train. Merchandise, theme park licensing, other income. On Friday, Warner Bros. Released Wonder Woman 1984 in North America, where it collected $16.7 million. Citing the coronavirus pandemic, only 39% of cinemas in the United States are open. The studio simultaneously distributed the film in theaters and on HBO Max. Warner Bros. Will release its entire 2021 slate in the same hybrid fashion. Warner Media provided only vague information about the sequel's performance on HBO Max, saying in a new release that millions of subscribers watched it on Friday. Netflix are just the same. Nobody releases the exact numbers. Andy Forssell, Warner Media's direct-to-consumer general manager, said the movie exceeded our expectations across all of our key viewing and subscriber metrics. This is why Wonder Woman 3 has been fast-tracked. That wouldn't happen unless they were very happy with all the numbers. So far, Wonder Woman 1984 has collected 85 million worldwide, with 68.3 million coming from cinemas overseas, where HBO Max does not yet exist. The film starring Gadot and directed by Patty Jenkins cost at least $200 million to make and an estimated $100 million to market worldwide, and received a much weaker reviews than its series predecessor. Toby Emmerich, president of the Warner Brothers Pictures Group, said on Sunday that he had fast-tracked a third Wonder Woman movie. Our real-life Wonder Woman, Gal and Patty, will return to conclude the long-planned theatrical trilogy, Mr. Emmerich said. Mr. Hamada rose to power through New Line, a Warner Brothers division that mostly makes mid-budget horror films and comedies, among other achievements. He worked with the filmmakers James Wan and others to build The Conjuring 2013 into a six-film world with 1.8 billion in global ticket sales. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, arrives in June. A lot of times in studio meetings, executives just repeat buzzwords and it becomes a joke, Mr. Wan said. Walt always brings something constructive, useful and important to the table. He talks to me in a language that I understand. And this is very important, that directors feel that Walter Hamada is someone who talks in their language. It shows he's a great leader. When Mr. Hamada arrived at DC Films in 2018, the division was in urgent need of stability. Two terrifyingly expensive movies, Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice 2016 and Justice League 2017, both directed by Zack Snyder. No, Justice League wasn't directed by Zack Snyder. Were deemed almost unwatchable by critics. Again, Justice League wasn't directed by Zack Snyder. Ben Affleck, who played Batman in the films, wanted to move on, complicating sequel plans. At the same time, filmmakers were developing other DC movies that had nothing to do with the existing storylines and in fact contradicted some of them. Did they? Mr. Hamada and Mr. Emmerich have two options. Figure out how to make the various storylines and characters' incarnations coexist or start over. And I said this to you at the time. Walter had a decision to make. Either start again, which means you've just got to start again, and it's problematic because you've got to go back to the beginning so close after creating a franchise, or he had the choice of doing the multiverse strategy. And for me, the multiverse strategy was the correct decision. The answer is the multiverse. Boiled down, it means what some characters, Wonder Woman as portrayed by Miss Gadot, for instance, will continue their adventures on Earth 1. Now, this is really important. So Gal Gadot stays in Earth 1, according to this article, while new incarnations, Mr. Patterson as the Batman, will populate Earth 2. So according to this article, I don't know if this is Walter Hamada saying this or the journalist, but apparently Gal Gadot will be Earth 1 Wonder Woman and Pattinson's Batman will populate Earth 2. So already we're starting from Earth 1. We know that Gal Gadot will be Wonder Woman there, but who else will populate Earth 1? Very interesting. The Flash, a film set for release in theatres in 2022, will link the two universes and feature two Batmans, with Mr. Affleck returning as one and Michael Keaton returning as the other. Mr. Keaton played Batman in 89 and 92. Let me clarify this for you. This journalist seems to know what he's talking about because he's got Hamada with him. This seems official. Let me repeat what I've just said. The Flash, a film set for release in theatres in 2022, will link the two universes and feature two Batmans, with Mr. Affleck returning as one and Michael Keaton returning as the other. Mr. Keaton played Batman in 89 and 92. This is interesting. So are they going to link the two universes together? Are they going to be part of the same universe? Or are they going to stay separate, Earth 1 and Earth 2? Now that's interesting, because if they unify Earth 1 and Earth 2, Pattinson all of a sudden can be part of Earth 1. But can you have two Batman coexist in the same Earth? Probably not. So probably they will stay as two separate Earths. So interesting and exciting. To complicate matters further, HBO Max gave Mr. Snyder more than $70 million to recut his Justice League and expand it with new footage. Mr. Snyder and Warner Brothers had clashed over his original vision, which the studio deemed overly grim. By the way, that's the old regime of Warner Brothers, not this one, resulting in reshoots handled by a different director, Joss Whedon. That didn't go well either. Zack Snyder's Justice League, now 4 hours long, will arrive in segments on HBO Max in March. At least for now, Mr. Snyder is not part of the new DC Films blueprint, with studio executives describing his HBO Max project as a storytelling cul-de-sac, a street that leads nowhere. Now, let's be clear about this. At this moment, no, Zack's not part of the party and his universe isn't being unified at this moment, officially. But it's going to happen. Once they see those numbers, it will be rubber stamped. And yes, probably Zack's universe isn't going to be part of Earth 1 and Earth 2. It's going to be Elseworld. But Zack Snyder's going nowhere from the way he's conducting himself, the way he's, publicly marketing Wonder Woman 84. He's part of the Warner Media gang. Zack Snyder is going nowhere. Will arrive in segments on HBO Max in March. At least for now, Mr. Snyder is not part of the DC Films blueprint, with studio executives describing his HBO Max project as a storytelling cul-de-sac, a street that leads nowhere. Actually, it's a street that leads somewhere. So don't listen to that. He's got a future, and the Snyderverse will continue, but it won't be part of Earth 1 or Earth 2. The multiverse concept has worked on television, but it is a risky strategy for big screens. These movies need to attract the widest audience possible to justify their cost, and too much of a comic nerd sensibility can be a turn-off. New actors can take over a character. James Bond is the best example, but multiple Gothams spinning in theatres. Basically right, listen to me. It isn't a problem, because as long as the entertainment is on the screen, they don't need to work anything else out, and it can be quickly explained so easily. I don't think anyone else has ever attempted this, Mr. Hamada said, but audiences are sophisticated enough to understand it. If we make good movies, they will go with it. And that's the article. So, as I said to you when I was talking about Wonder Woman 84, Wonder Woman 84 isn't typically what the future of DC films and TV shows is going to be. Nothing is going to be self-contained. The reason for the multiverse strategy is for crossovers. It's to see different characters from different versions of DC live action cross over. To see different versions of different characters from the DC Extended Universe cross over. Because Walter Hamada and Warner Media understand one thing. This is why the MCU is so successful. So right there, you've heard Walter Hamada and this journalist discuss that this is an ambitious project, this multiverse strategy, that they're going for it. It is going to happen. And I'm so very excited for it. And I want your comments on this. How does it feel hearing Walter Hamada talk about the multiverse strategy out loud, saying it's one of the most, one of the most ambitious things anyone's ever made? No one's really attempted this before. It is really exciting. You've heard there that Earth 1 will have Gal Gadot so far, and Earth 2 will have Michael Keaton's Batman. So that's interesting. So Michael Keaton's Batman is part of Earth 2, if I'm reading it correctly. So what we don't know is, are they going to unify Earth 1 and Earth 2 by the end of Flashpoint? It's a possibility. That's interesting. Or will they stay as two separate Earths? Look, this is so really exciting. You know how pumped I am for this. This is what the DC live-action universe needs. This multiverse strategy. And Walter Hamada and Jim Lee are the men to do this. Comment down below. Like, share and subscribe. And I'll be back on Wednesday for even more DCEU Daily. See you again soon. So exciting, isn't it? Great to be a DC fan.